Hello, and welcome to another Andrew Joseph PR curated webinar on Aspire Design and Home. We're really honored today to have some of the industry's luminaries. We have Barbara Sallick, Charles Hilton, Matthew Patrick Smyth, and the very brilliant and lovable Jill Cohen. She has some amazing questions for these authors. I want everyone to know that I will be putting information where you can purchase these books in the chat section, or in the Q&A section and the chat section, so that you will be able to have some of these lovely books for holiday gifts. Thank you very much. And now I'll give it right over to Jill. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for inviting us. I'm so thrilled to be here. I am a book producer and agent and have had the good fortune of working with all of these talents. Barbara Sallick, the co-founder of Waterworks and author of The Perfect Bath and The Perfect Kitchen, is here with us today. Chuck Hilton, who is the founder of Charles Hilton Architects in Greenwich, Connecticut, and author of classic Greenwich Houses, and Matthew Patrick Smyth, a renowned interior designer and author of Through a Designer's Eye. And I'm thrilled. I had the good fortune of working with all of these people on their books, and Matthew and Barbara are on book 2, and this was Chuck's first experience, so they all come from a different perspective. But really what's exciting is all of them are leaders in their own area of design. Nobody knows more about the bath and kitchen than Barbara Sallick. Chuck is an award-winning architect, and Matthew is a well-published and award-winning interior designer. So I think you're going to learn a lot today, and they'll share some wonderful pictures of the books as well. So I'm going to start with this question, which is, I think all authors have a similar goal when they start working on a book, and that is, what they really want the reader to walk away with. What kind of information is important? It's not really, it's very different than magazines. You're not talking about the clients and who they were and if they're celebs. It's really information about whether, designing a home or designing a part of a home. And I'll start with Barbara. With both the kitchen and the bath, Barbara, these are functional spaces that have evolved over the years. And what are the main takeaways that you really wanted the readers to get out of your books and your primary mission for writing these books?
Well, first of all, I felt that truthfully, I had lots of years of experience talking about the bath, learning about the bath, exposing products that are appropriate for the bath. And it felt like it was the right moment to let that all go. The interesting thing about the kitchen is that I realized about halfway through the bath book that there was indeed another book in me, and that the kitchen and the bath had more than a little bit in common. Both rooms require special equipment. Everything is attached to the walls and floors. Everything requires major construction by lots of different trades. It produces a mess and distraction and disruption and noise. And ultimately, if you don't like the outcome, you can't do anything about it unless you're willing to fork over lots and lots of money. So what I thought that I could do well was that I could actually, I could talk about informed inspiration as opposed to how to. Neither of these books are how to, and that's because truthfully, I'm more interested in the experience in both of these spaces, one being very private and the other being the community center of the house. And so, actually they layer beautifully on top of one another. And also, to Jill's credit, by having the same book designer, I realized at some point that I had, quote unquote, a box set. So it was kind of nice to have the two of them together. And actually somebody just bought 30 sets to give to their clients as Christmas presents. Cheers. We're really excited about that.
That's great. And also, I think what's so inspiring about the book is, we reached out to hundreds of designers and architects. And Barbara was really very much a curator in determining not only what went into the books, but how each image taught something different. So there was not a lot of redundancy. There were case studies. It's really kind of a brilliant and wonderful way to share, different talents in the industry through the books.
Absolutely.
So Chuck, well, Barbara, we're going to come back to lots of questions about the bath and kitchen today, but Chuck, I want to talk a little bit about you and Greenwich. When we did this book, obviously you work in more than just Greenwich. You work all over Connecticut and New York and other places. And you have these, significant properties in Greenwich. And we did have the question, should the title be, New England? Should it be Connecticut? Should it be Greenwich? And we all decided that there was a cachet about Greenwich, more than just a cachet, that it represented a certain something important. So will you talk a little bit about the appeal and what is special about Greenwich and why we did this?
Sure. I do think Greenwich is a special place and kind of a unique place to pursue residential architecture. I mean, just to take one step back, and I started at this at a really early age. Started working in architects' offices through high school and college. Found commercial and institutional work interesting, but didn't really love being tied to 5-year business cycles and design by committee, and really realized that where my passion was being connected to the end user, and with the home, you got to really interact and know exactly how the building was going to be used. And so, when I upon graduation, I was looking for a place where I could pursue the absolute best kind of high-end residential work, a place that would support, that would had a culture that would support great design. And there's communities that do and communities that don't. Greenwich is one of the oldest communities in the country. It was founded in 1640, and some of the oldest housing stock dates back to Revolutionary War times and after. But then all through the 1800s, when these European styles started moving in, the architecture got more diverse. From the 1880s to 1929, there was a period of what they referred to as the Great Estates, where a lot of people bought large tracts of land and built these really beautiful homes in a variety of styles. And then through the last century, modernism and stuff came in. So it's a very diverse, has a very diverse architectural history. It's close to New York. A lot of people work in the financial industries. A lot of people move in and out. So it's a really multicultural town, despite maybe a different reputation. And so, I think these things all are really critical to, having amazing opportunities in architecture. And, then I came here out of school, really trained as a modernist. But in the 1980s, nobody really wanted modern architecture. And I realized I had to learn to do kind of the best traditional architecture. People wanted additions to their homes that looked and fit kind of seamlessly with the houses, and new houses that fit seamlessly with the neighborhoods. And people also see their homes very much as a long-term investment, both financially, but also in the quality of life for their family. So I think, all these things influence our opportunities here. And that's kind of led to the book where, I think these special things about what we've been able to do are values and themes that would translate to other parts of the country. And the book's kind of an opportunity to showcase some of that.
I thought it was very interesting when we started working together that the more traditional houses, of very, very substantial houses, you felt would stand the test of time in Greenwich. You told me you never want to really work on a house that's going to be a future Greenwich teardown. So it's interesting that the traditional houses do stand there. But this brings me to this question when I was thinking about the three of you, and specifically Barbara and Matthew. We all lived in older houses. Barbara and I both had our antique houses on the market for a long time. And Matthew, when we did your first book, you had an antique house in Connecticut. And now Barbara and Matthew are both living in mid-century houses. And I think, Matthew, what I want to talk about is, your first book was almost, was 7 or 8 years ago. And now your new book really shows an evolution of your work, and really the central focus of your book is the house you're living in now. And I'd really love to talk about, whether you feel like you transitioned to a more modern aesthetic, or if it's just kind of an evolution in
Well, yeah. Well, I went from a 1790 house in the village of Sharon to a 1970 house in the woods here in Salisbury, for two reasons. One, I felt I needed a change. I also have a situation where I have an older partner, and it was time to get real about heating up a house faster and one level living and things like that. But I've always been intrigued with the idea of taking a ranch house and making something nice out of it, because I grew up in upstate New York, which is where the town I lived in was all ranch houses. And I thought, someday I really want to have this challenge and make it better. But even when I do modern work, and the house is a little bit more modern than other things in my book, the traditional values are still there. People thought when I bought a mid-century house, I would fill it up with mid-century furniture. I probably have 1 or 2 pieces of mid-century furniture in the house. But I think it's still, I always think about my work, I always think about the appropriateness of the space and the client and where it is. And I think this house, I didn't want to give up what I loved about traditional design. It's the reason I came into this industry long ago. And so I wanted to incorporate both. And that was my challenge with the house. And that's why I'm so happy here.
It's great. I see though that, you've always had a lot of antiques in your projects, and you've always incorporated them. And I kind of love the fact that you figured out a way of making them look great in this space.
Well, yeah, I'm always drawn to I think the fun part about doing, for me as an interior designer, is the use of antiques, because when I have a project where it's all new things, I know what it's going to look like when it's finished. When I start with a project that needs maybe 30-40% antiques, it's always, everything's a surprise. Everything's a domino effect. You're bouncing off. It's a more creative process. You're making it work. The piece that client fell in love with, or you fell in love with, that you weren't thinking of. So it makes the project more interesting for me in the long run. But no, I mean, I just think my my roots are there, and I don't, I'm not going to give them up. So I still love doing traditional work. I mean, I prefer it, quite honestly. But
well, we're going to get to some COVID questions later, because those, of course, bring back what the new trends are. But before we get to that, one thing that you all have in common is that I know that all of you have clients that have the big budgets. And I think many people in the design world, especially, designers that are just starting out, envy these projects where somebody says, money's no object, I want to do something amazing. So Barbara, I'm going to start with you, because, kitchens and bathrooms, I'd love to know maybe the most, luxurious space, or something that really stands out, a story of one of the kitchens or bathrooms you've done that's unforgettable.
Well, there are a couple actually, and they're not always the largest spaces. It's really important to note that. It is actually how the space is used, how the details manifest themselves. It is also the overall quality of the overall construction that
Right.
makes a difference, the choice of paints, the choice of materials. So luxury is not about space. It is really about how you put something all together to make this cohesive, extraordinary whole.
And how
I asked,
big that marble is, right?
yeah,
That
well,
marble counter.
I asked one of our sales consultants to send me some photos, and they sent me a photo of a kitchen that Ken Falk had done very recently, and it is breathtaking. It really is. They used one of our kitchen styles, but they painted it in a color I probably couldn't have imagined. The use of lighting, the use of stone, and it all just flows in a way that if you had shown me each thing individually, I'd have gone, are you kidding? And the fact is that it actually is stunningly beautiful. So it's the professional that you need to hire, A, to design the kitchen, and B, to do the interiors in order to have a really outstanding project.
That's great. Well, while I'm at that, I want to ask this question. Kitchens and bathrooms, it's always interesting to me when I work with an interior designer or an architect, how involved they are, because there are all these, kitchen experts or bath experts or how does it, from all three of your perspectives, I know that you've all done kitchens and bathrooms, but what is the optimum kind of combination of participants or not?
Well, I mean, I think sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say, can you have too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Well, I think, if you have a chance, I always believe in utilizing experts when you can. So if you have the opportunity to work with somebody who just specializes in kitchens and that's their specialty. I always think interior designers, they don't have to be everything. We're like movie directors. We bring in, the movie director doesn't do the camera work, he doesn't do the acting, doesn't write the script, but you bring it together and you get all the experts into one space to make a perfect project. And if you can bring a kitchen person or bath person in who knows the ins and outs, who knows what's new, who knows what's going to work and not work, why not get that advice?
Great.
And I'd agree. I use that analogy all the time. It's funny you brought up movie director, because I think of it very much like, you put the team together for the project, and people have expertise, and we work in a very collaborative way with a whole bunch of people and disciplines, and the kitchen is it's a complicated place, and there's a lot of specialty knowledge that is involved, and there's people that do it every day, day in and day out, and we're happy to have their expertise on our projects.
Well, I will say we work with so much photography that when we're working with an interior designer or an architect and they're delivering material to us, whenever we see something that's not quite great, we'll ask an interior designer, what happened with this house? And they'll say, well, there was no architect, or an architect saying, well, they did the interiors themselves. And I think the best projects always, the architects and designers always say that when you can start the project together with an expert team that collaborates, those are the best projects. So, yeah, that's a confirmation of that. So, Chuck.
Jill, I'm going to add one thing to all of that. Just so that part of that team is the expertise of your sales consultant as well. You can't leave that part out of the process, because even though you have a kitchen expert and a bath expert, I would say the sales consultant sees so much all the time that they can be a really incredible resource.
Great.
And you have a great team, Barbara. But
okay.
we work with Waterworks for more than 30 years, and every person I work with there is extremely knowledgeable and a real pleasure and very helpful to the process. So
Thank you.
I always tell young designers, you can come up with great ideas and great designs, but if you can't get it delivered, it's no good. So that's why it's so important to work with a good sales team across the board.
So Chuck, I've been to some of your houses, incredible properties. I think of Sleepy Cat, where, there were, guest house, main house, gardens, Lemonaya. I'm interested in what the most interesting or unique space you've been asked to design, because Greenwich, it is such a special place, and people have, are, kind of outrageous ideas sometimes. So I'm curious, what's one that's
Oh, geez, I don't know. There's a lot of them. I mean, in a lot of ways, a lot of our projects, if you were to just look kind of on a floor plan on how they function, are really, really similar, even though on the surface, maybe stylistically, they're different. But what I always try to do is do a deep dive with the client and find out their personality and their passions. And those things always lead to the most interesting and fun places. So I mean, some of them are some people are into their sports. So we've done a basketball court underneath a house and a squash court underneath a house, and gyms and saunas and indoor pools, and all the golf simulator rooms seem to be really hot these days. Entertainment spaces, theaters, music rooms. A lot of people are into the garden and outside, so greenhouses, as you see here.
green right
Nice cue up there. Potting rooms, fountains, gazebos, the Lemonaya, which is, for those who don't know what that is, like basically like an orangery. Entry gates to a property that have a theme and that are very, announce kind of the theme of it. And then these hobby spaces, there's guys that are hunters and they have trophy rooms and storage for their guns. Garages, we designed a car barn for a Ferrari collection, which was, a fabulous thing. And, a variety of outdoor entertainment spaces. So, those are kind of one-offs, maybe one every few projects or something, but those are the ones that are really special and unique, and we get to have put our really super creative hats on and have fun with.
That's great. And Matthew, how about your
Well,
most
between
luxurious or
between the
unique
years,
space?
between the years I've worked for myself, but I was with David Easton for many years. So I think I've worked on a range of sort of luxury and fantasy, but I think my favorite is, if you get the book, it's in the book, is it's different from everything else in my book. It's the last thing in my book. It's the Ronald McDonald House I did. And I went out to Long Island because we were renovating the Ronald McDonald House, and we had to pick a room. And there was a New York Mets room, and it was bad. It was just decals on the wall. It was nothing. But so I just said, I picked my first three choices were Mets. So it's and if you've seen the book, it's probably the most rewarding single room, simple but rewarding thing I've ever done, and most memorable and most creative, because I had to just take it from.
I love the story of your search for the Mets rug. Will you share that?
Yeah, well, I had the Mets colors are Yankees is easy, Mets is a little more difficult. It's that weird orange and blue. So I started looking in New York for combinations for the carpet, and then not finding anything. So I went up here in Connecticut, and I'm going through the guy's books. I'm getting rashes from these nasty carpets, and finally he says to me, "Well, what do you want this for?" I said, "Well, I'm doing the Mets room." He goes, "I'm doing a room based on the New York Mets." He goes, "Why don't you use the Mets carpet?" And I have been working with the marketing team of the Mets. This has never came up. This never was part of anything they offered me. They offered me nothing anyway. But he pulls out this book, and it's all these teams, and here's the Mets carpet, and I was just about to have it commissioned by Pascal and Martin, and here it was. It was just right in front of me. So it was meant to be. It was just sort of, it made the room.
Great story. Great story. So of course this has been, 2020, the year that we will all never forget. And so we have to ask some COVID questions because everyone's living differently now, at home. In fact, we won't bring this up, but I did ask Barbara about the toilet paper issues that took over the news for the first month. And so, there are certain rooms that have gotten more use than ever before now that we're all home all the time. So Barbara, I would love to hear, from all of you about how people are, living and spending on their homes right now, what you think is going to stick, what changes people have been asking for. So Barbara, why don't you start, because the kitchen and bath, I think, has been a busy place.
It has been a busy place, and to say the very least, people are definitely wanting to improve their kitchens and add to their kitchens. And partly that's because it's the classroom, it's the study hall, it's the community center. Oh, and by the way, you need to cook and eat there as well. That's sort of the subset of what goes on in the kitchen these days. So we're definitely seeing an interest and have on the books a number of kitchen additions. That doesn't mean they're changing their entire kitchen, they're updating it and they're adding bigger eating areas and seating areas. And as for the bath, I mean, people are definitely redoing their bath. They're realizing that in the house, there is exactly one place where you're encouraged to close and lock the door. And to be honest, that's the bathroom. So there have been a lot of very interesting projects to redo and update bathrooms. And, you know, I get the sense that this has sort of been on people's minds, but when you're in your house, as I have been since March 3rd, I mean, every day there's something else that I feel like I need or want to do. And I just have to stop myself. And I don't think I'm any different from anybody else.
Very true. You know, I'm curious, Chuck, you know, when you're working with an architect, you're thinking about a sense of permanence. Have you seen anybody that you know, you were in the middle of designing a house for, and then COVID came and they're thinking, maybe we need more outdoor spaces, but maybe we're not going to be using them forever, or screen porches, or, you know, where's it all, you know, changing and, you know, playing into people's decisions right now?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, I think we've just seen an amplification of, I mean, maybe the one real change is that before COVID, I think there was a lot of, at least in our area of the country, there was a lot of downsizing and people moving, you know, empty nesters moving and downsizing and not wanting the maintenance and the headaches that come with property management. And now, you know, people really want the space, they want the yard. And so I think there has been a reversal on, you know, from downsizing to upsizing. But other than that, I think most of the trends we've seen have just been an amplification of things that were kind of in the works, you know, very much like the shift to technology just got kind of ramped up. I mean, you know, we're getting asked for 2 home offices instead of 1, you know, much more frequently. The cooking, and I won't, you know, Barbara covered that really well. Everything related to the kitchen is important, and that kitchen family room living has been. Outdoor living, same thing. I mean, it's been popular and a trend for a while, but now, you know, people really need it. So pools and entertainment spaces and outdoor kitchens and pergolas and those kind of things. You know, energy efficiency is another thing that kind of comes. People are home all day, you know, utilizing all the utilities, and so the bills are going up, and they're you know, more likely, I think, to opt for those kind of things. And certainly, you know, the integration of technologies just keeps going, you know, at a lightning pace. And, you know, maybe a newer thing is a focus on healthier homes and just having environments. You know, there's lots of things, HVAC systems and exercise spaces and things like that. But, you know, one of the more interesting ones that there seems to be interest in is LED lighting that mimics daylighting and kind of helps maintain circadian rhythm with, you know, with people being and working kind of day and night. So I think those are kind of major trends. And
Sure. Very major. Interesting. And Matthew, not just on designing the home, but objects in the home. You know, we heard in the beginning of COVID, I had a few design clients telling us that they were getting calls from people that were sitting at home and saying, you know, I'm here for a month or two and I'm bored with my furniture and you know, I want some more interesting art, interesting pieces to look at. And of course, people were saying, great, maybe, you know, traditional's coming back. And and what do you see in terms of interiors and, you know?
Well, you know, that concept kept us busy for March and April and May. I also was getting a lot of texts from clients saying, I've spilled red wine over everything. I need to. That was like more than one of those.
The upholstery people are really busy right now.
Everything's out right now. But you know what I've seen, you know, this might be too soon to even think about or talk about, but in the last few days, I've had 2 clients and then one with a feeler who want to return to redoing the same thing to their New York apartments. And with the idea that with the vaccine, they're coming back in September. So we're now rushing fast to get projects sort of so we can get there for the summer work rules to renovate the kitchen and the bathroom. And now's their time. And then at the same time, they want to renovate when they get back to New York in September, ideally, then they want to renovate the country house bathroom and kitchen while they're not there. So it's turning into 2 jobs right now. So I don't know if that trend's going to continue. It's sort of, it's promising, but it's been nice to think about.
Yeah, one of the magazine editors early on said, you know, people are used to being in their homes some of the time, not all of the time.
I know. You know, we've been very busy. I've been, you know, I opened a second office up here in Salisbury, and because of this, and it's working out very well. My staff drives up 2 days a week, but because a lot of people moved up here, and everything's sold up here. There's nothing left, and so I've been very lucky with very good clients and young clients looking for traditional furniture, and they want good furniture. It's not, they don't want just, you know, beat up or, you know, collector's shop things. That they want good fine furniture. So that's been very promising.
Great. I can open up my storage unit for you.
It's really hard now to find things. It's not like, you know, I went to a client's house in Bedford, and I had done the house probably 20 years ago. And I just thought, you know, I can't find this stuff anymore. It's so, you know, all this beautiful furniture is not the same thing anymore. So I'm hoping that this does create another industry, and that antique dealers get back into business, and that young people go into the business also.
Wow, before you got on, Matthew, Barbara and I were talking about what to do with all of our stuff in storage. We might have the answer now.
Yeah, just hold on a little bit longer, you know.
Okay.
Exactly.
A little bit longer.
Speaking of your change, you know, in your office up there, I'd like to hear from Chuck and Barbara a couple of different things. One is, Chuck, your office, you have a lot of architects. I've been to your space. How have you shifted? What do you see as temporary and what do you see as permanent in terms of, it's a very collaborative business you're in. How have you overcome your internal collaboration work and your client work?
In some ways it's worked well. In other ways it's been challenging. We worked at home from the middle of March till the beginning of June, then back in the office, and then starting from Thanksgiving through January, we're now back at home. It's hard to collaborate and design through Zoom, you know, when you're used to having pens and sketch paper and leaning over each other's desks and those kind of things. I mean, the production end isn't so bad. The first couple of weeks were pretty challenging as we got everybody's technology up and working, and things like Zoom have worked great. I mean, not our favorite way to work, but a great infill. So, you know, I don't know. I think we'll be using this technology and these tools much more than we ever have before. But, you know, I really like being face to face with the team and not having to get on a Zoom call every time I need something, you know, which is about every 10 minutes from somebody. So it's, you know, we'll get through this, and it'll be a hybrid moving forward, I'm sure.
And Barbara, you've got showrooms and retail stores all over the country in prominent spots, you know, some of the most beautiful showrooms anywhere, LA and, you know, Atlanta, whatever. And what happened when when things closed down, or when you became, you know, minimized, did everything just shift to online, and then is it back, and what's happened there?
So we're being extremely cautious and have this gigantic list of protocols that we all follow. And actually, as you have been to our office in Danbury, that it is literally empty. On any given day, there are 7 people there when there are normally over 100.
Wow.
So it's like this echo
That's
chamber.
a huge,
I've been there 3 times since March 3rd, only because I needed books that I left behind. And even though no one's there, there are these deep cleaning, assignments that people have. And it's really hard. And the showrooms are working, they have worked out schedules. So no matter where you go, you will never see a full staff. And we also have worked to have appointments so that we can control the number of people. It is a full-time job just trying to figure out who can go in when, who gets a deep cleaning when, where are all the hand wipes, where are all the sanitizers. It is a huge project, and I will guarantee you, if it's 2 years before we all think that we're going back, it's just about that. It's not that we're not all working, and it's also not that we don't miss the camaraderie and the collaboration. Even though we all talk and we're on Zoom and we do a lot of this, there is something that happens in those moments when you meet someone in the hall and all of a sudden something magical happens, and it just doesn't happen now. And since we're in the business of developing and designing product, those moments often led to some of the best inspiration.
so how do you all share with a client, especially, Matthew, the tactile, textural fabrics that somebody wants to touch, or Barbara, the sheen of something where somebody wants something brushed and they actually want to see what it looks like close up? How are you showing people physical, touch, feel things? Are there?
Well, we've been sending a lot of packages around, and then going on Zoom. It's not the same thing. And also I realized there's a couple of showrooms in the D&D building where you have to wear gloves, and I realized I can't shop for fabrics if I can't touch the fabric. It was bizarre. I never realized how strong that sense is when selecting fabric until I couldn't do it. But it's been challenging. Luckily, everybody's, even the clients, are adapting in other parts of their lives with the children's school or with their own work. So everybody's getting used to this way of working. But I do think the magic is, it's only so far I think you can take this. So I'm hoping that we can get back to live meetings, because there's so many times you're with a client and just by a raise of an eyebrow or a smile, and if you can take the project somewhere else, you get a reaction from them. You come up with an idea instantly, talking to them, and you create excitement, and that's what we're all in the business for. We want to keep moving, and we want to keep developing, and doing it on Zoom, only on Zoom, or through text or email. It's just there's a missing layer there, and but so far so good. I mean, we have no choice right now, and we're all making it work. And luckily, we've been in business long enough that we can make this happen. Right. But it's a challenge.
Yeah. Speaking of challenges, I know all 3 of you are big travelers. I've been traveling with you in DLNs and LDCs and all kinds of conferences, and we see each other in, LCDQ in all parts of the country and out of the country. And it's a great source of inspiration for all of you. I know, Matthew, the core of your book is your, photography that has been shot everywhere. And Chuck and Barbara, a lot of European inspiration in both of your works. So where are you finding your inspiration now? How do you make up for that lack of travel? I mean, let's start with you, Barbara. What are you doing?
What am I doing? Well,
to fulfill that empty void.
So it's a void. So I was telling Jill before that I realized that I would travel to my office and back, a total of an hour and a half, or travel, just generally get in an airplane. So I had found time. So I used my time to walk, and I walked 5 miles a day. So if anybody knows the village that I live in, it is genuinely a village. It's tiny. There are a total of 155 houses. And I decided that I, in my mind, was going to re-landscape every house I passed by. I mean, it's just like a crazy thing. And I'm so excited when somebody comes through and a tree goes down. Yes, I thought that. Oh, I mean, it's dumb. And of course, I read a lot, and we made sure in this house that I especially wanted to keep my book ownership low, because I'd given like 1,000 books to the New York School of Interior Design, but it seems like they're piling up all over my office again. And there have been some remarkable books that have come out, and that's all I can do.
Yeah.
So you can see I'm landscaping, I'm pruning in my mind and entertaining myself that way.
Funny. How about you, Chuck?
I'm inspiration starved. I'm dying to get back out on the road. I think Instagram is a place where I see a lot of great memories. I mean, I love seeing the repost of trips we took together, years ago, and I'm keeping a little catalog of interesting places that I want to go. The DLN Inspiration by Design book was a great thing, and is inspiring me to plan trips for the future. So I think online for the time being, but with lots of plans to travel as soon as we can.
And Matthew, you used to spend a great deal of your time in Paris. You have a place there, and what are you?
Well, luckily I was there in January from Maison Objet, but yeah, and when the seasons change, I get anxiety attacks, because those are usually the times I want to be there. But one thing I did to counteract it, but I rush in and out of Paris. Everybody in Paris speaks English to me. Nobody thinks I'm French. They automatically go, I'm either British or American or Irish or Swiss, but they go right into English with me. So my French has been getting sloppy. So I have a tutor 2 days a week, 2 mornings a week, Thursdays and Friday mornings through the Alliance Française. And it's a goal so that when I go back, that it's just, I told him that my French is like, think of a messy desk, all the elements are there, but we have to put it back in order. And that's what I've been working on. It helps me and I feel productive. It also gives me structure, especially in the beginning. If I didn't have that Tuesday and Friday mornings, I'm not sure I would know what day it was. But and I remember, I've also gotten to know this area. I've been rushing. I come up Fridays, leave Sundays, and I didn't really know the trails and the neighboring towns as well as I do now. And I do a lot of walking. But I remember when I especially started in March and April. And at the end of April, I went back to New York, and I took her out for a walk, and she said, "Do you want to go in Central Park?" I said, "No, I've seen enough trees. I just want to see concrete, architecture, buildings. I don't want to go to the park."
Well, speaking of getting to know your area, I thought since all of you, are in Connecticut, you must have some secret sources or favorite shops. And actually, a question just came in, Barbara, for you, that there's somebody new to the design field, about vendors that you like that do beautiful, bedding, bath things, linens, kitchen, anything. I know Connecticut has great antique shops in different places. So Matthew, do you want to start with your sources?
Well, my favorite is Artifacts in Kent, Connecticut.
I agree.
I go there quite a bit. I love going to New Preston. There's a Privet House. Is it called Privet House?
Yeah, and Privet House is great.
Yeah, I go there, and I was there the other day buying things. And also in Salisbury, we have, which has been great for me, we have Johnny Cake Books, which it's since we don't have the bookstores and everything's on Amazon, that impulse buying, which is, you'd walk into a bookstore thinking you were going to buy maybe one book of anything, and you walk out with 7. So that's been nice to go, and just, you never know where it's going to take you. So between Johnny Cakes, Artifacts, New Preston, it's been great.
And Barbara, how about you?
I agree. I just love Dan Dwyer at Johnny Cake, and he knows so much that if you are looking for some obscure book, he knows exactly how to put his fingers on it.
Right.
In addition to Artifacts, which I think is stellar as well, I happen to love Plain Goods in New Preston. The whole village is stunningly fabulous. And Dawn Hill, which has Swedish stuff. And they also, I think they still have their Great Big Poodle, who's just dear. And then you go off into Washington, Connecticut, and you go to Hickory Stick Bookshop. And once again, I have always felt that I needed to support small shops because I was one and people supported me. So I would always go to Hickory Stick and buy things there that I could easily get on Amazon. But the woman at the shop knows so much, and she leads me to things that I can read on a plane or at home. So our little northwestern corner of Connecticut is pretty fabulous. There's one other place that I quite love, and it's just moved from Saugatuck, which is actually Westport, into Norwalk. And I think it's called Facts, Facts. I have to check that, but they have fabulous, if you're looking for mid-century things, that is exactly what they have, and excellent taste. But of course,
Yeah.
we haven't been there recently.
Jeff, do you have a favorite shops or favorite, source places that you send people to?
I think, I kind of think more about things to do here and kind of fun things on kind of our corner of the state. One thing, let's talk about walking, reminded me, years ago, I decided I wanted to discover Connecticut and really understand the towns along the coast. And my son and I walked from Portchester, New York, all the way to Westerly, Rhode Island, over some weekends in the summer.
Wow.
And it was such an education, going from big cities to small towns to little villages along the way. And there's so much to discover. I mean, I love the water. I love doing water fun projects. And just riding along the coast on Route 1, you can do it in a car ride in a day or pick your favorite area. But I think there's a lot to kind of discover, just taking that trail.
That's great. So one other question I have for you all, is there a standout project or a favorite project either in your book or something you're working on now, and what makes it special? I'm curious about that. I know there's a big secret project, Matthew. You have a lot that you can't tell anybody. Would you share one of them with us?
Well, I'll share it. I mean, I am working on a house in Sardinia, and I've never been there. This started it was about to start just before I was supposed to be there in March and April and May and June and July. I've never been to Sardinia, so I've been doing everything by Zoom with the architects and the builders and the clients, and it's been challenging, but it's been fun, and it'll be very interesting to actually go there and see it in person after all this work that's been done from a distance and see how that worked out.
That's incredible.
So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully this summer I'll be there, if not sooner.
And how about you, Chuck?
Well, looking forward, there's a couple projects we're excited that we're hoping to get going soon. We have a new house right on the Pacific Ocean in Carpinteria, Santa Barbara County.
Wow.
And we've been going through approvals, and those have been delayed in part because of COVID. But we're hoping this spring to get approval, and it's a really beautiful, special site. And we're doing a kind of a modern craftsman bungalow right on the ocean, which is really special. And then kind of a complete reverse of that is we have a penthouse in New York City that I think we're close to approval on, and talking about getting it back into the city. It has beautiful outdoor terrace, and it should be a really great place. So we're hoping also this spring to kind of start construction on that.
No, fantastic. And Barbara, how about you? other than the new
So-
book?
So if you ask me that question, it's like asking me which of my children is the favorite.
Right.
So I can't answer. There are so many amazing projects and incredible designers who do things that absolutely just astound me. And I'm always just so excited to see the next new thing, which is a bit of a problem.
Right. Well, the good news is that we're about to start your third book or
Yeah.
next book on the ultimate bath. And that gives you a chance to see lots of,
Over the top.
yes, over the top submissions.
Yes.
So I think we are probably almost done. It's almost an hour, and we are welcoming questions. Two things we know is on the chat line, you can see that there's a link to where you can buy Barbara's book, and both Chuck and Matthew's books are Monticelli through the Fiden website, and there's a code on there to get 20% off with the code fall20 if you want to buy any of these books. They're all gorgeous and full of inspiring photos, and certainly you know, will take you out of the lack of inspiration that COVID has caused. But anyway, I think if we don't have any questions, other questions coming in, that we're probably, yes, actually a question just came in. If any of you have advice to new interior designers. So how about you take that one, Matthew? What's some advice?
Well, the best advice I can give is advice I got when I was early on in my career from Elsa Clench. Do you remember Elsa Clench?
Yes,
CNN Style.
yes.
I did several episodes with her, and she told me in the beginning, she said, never believe your press. She said, she said, it's great to have, but you really have to put that on one side. You have to keep focused and keep going forward. Don't get absorbed by it. It's a different person. Think of it as a different entity of your business. And I think that was most valuable. You know, it just kept me going. It kept me not resting on my laurels. It kept me wanting to develop more. And
I think that could translate today to never believe your Instagram likes.
well, that's, you know, it's true. I mean, it's fun to do, but it's not who you are necessarily, and it's not who you should be, or it's not, you know, you have to do it. But just don't fall into the trap of, you know, thinking that that's you're there yet, you know, because things keep evolving.
That's great. And Chuck or Barbara, any advice to designers out there right now?
So I would suggest that you sort of tap a mentor. I actually never had them, but in retrospect, I wish that I had known women in business who could have sort of advised me, or, you know, sort of pushed my career in a direction, and was an objective observer. And so I would say that it's always good to have someone to talk to.
Mhm.
Agree.
And I
And
think
that's
just
from my
developing
Yeah.
relationships with people that whose work you like and would like to work with, and, you know, I mean, reach out to architects whose work you like, and see if there's a project you can do together. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's a few people at the end of your career that you find out you collaborate with over and over and over again and really see eye to eye with. And I think trying to identify that early on is helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic.
And also, or just also, the other thing I mentioned is that, you know, it's a service business. It's not about your Instagram picture. It's about keeping clients happy, getting more work. And when those pictures come because of that, that's even more rewarding than just the one-offs.
Right.
So just, you know, focus on your clients.
Yes, and actually all three of you are a testament to how you succeed by having a great reputation, because all three of you are enormously well respected, and there's a reason that you're where you are today, and it is about how you treat everyone and sharing and giving back to the community as well.
Mhm.
So, and that's actually books are a big investment of time and money and energy. And all three of your books share a lot of information with everyone out there. And so it's much appreciated. And I appreciate all of you taking the time to do this today. And Andrew, appreciate you inviting us.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you,
Well,
Jim.
On behalf of Aspire Design, I'm eternally grateful for the wisdom and the knowledge that you shared today. It was really, and the photos, they're just so dreamy.
Yeah, the
Thank
photos
you very
are
much.
gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.